You keep waiting for the perfect moment instead of creating it. That's one of the biggest silent killers of progress. Most people convince themselves that they're not ready yet, that the timing isn't right, that once they get more money, more confidence, or more clarity, they'll finally move. But the truth is, there will never be a perfect time. Life doesn't hand you opportunities wrapped in certainty. It gives you moments wrapped in fear and doubt. The people who win are not the ones who wait until they're ready. They're the ones who act while they're still unsure. Every dream begins as chaos before it becomes clarity. Every success story starts with a leap that makes no logical sense at the time. Waiting for perfection is just procrastination dressed up in justification. You call it preparation, but deep down, it's hesitation. And hesitation is a thief of momentum. You might think waiting will protect you from mistakes, but it actually guarantees regret. Because every day you wait, you're letting time slip away. And time is the one currency you can never get back. You can recover from a loss. You can rebuild your confidence. You can start over, but you can never rewind time. So when you tell yourself you're not ready, what you're really saying is, I don't believe I can grow through the unknown. You want certainty before commitment, but the truth is, commitment creates certainty. You become ready after you move, not before. The act of doing shapes you into the person who can handle what's next. Waiting for the perfect moment means you'll always be one step behind the people who decided to move despite their fear. All right, think about the most successful people you know. They didn't wait for confidence to arrive. They built it through motion. Confidence isn't something you feel before you start. It's something you earn after you've survived the start. Every master was once a beginner who decided to start even when they looked foolish. But here's what happens when you wait. Your fear grows, your doubt deepens, and your imagination becomes your biggest enemy. You start imagining all the things that could go wrong instead of what could go right. You start overanalyzing, comparing, and hesitating until your dream starts feeling impossible. That's how waiting kills you slowly. It convinces you to play it safe until the opportunity passes. The perfect time never comes because life will always be busy, uncertain, and imperfect. You'll always have bills, distractions, and challenges. You'll never have the ideal balance of energy, money, or confidence. So, the illusion of perfect timing is how fear keeps control over you. You think you're being smart, but you're really being still, and stillness without strategy is stagnation. The world doesn't reward people who wait. It rewards people who create. The ones who dare to start while others hesitate become the ones everyone else ends up admiring. Every dream requires motion. Momentum is magic. It builds clarity. It creates energy. It attracts opportunities. When you start moving, things begin to align. Doors open, ideas flow, people show up, and your path starts to make sense. But you'll never experience that alignment if you're sitting still waiting for proof. You are the proof. The evidence comes after the effort, not before it. You can't wait for motivation to act. You act to create motivation. Movement births energy. Motion builds power. I know. You've got to stop overthinking and start executing. Overthinking is just the art of creating problems that don't exist yet. You talk yourself out of opportunities that were made for you. You build walls in your mind that block your own potential. And every time you say, I'll start next week, you're giving your fear one more victory. The only way to destroy that pattern is to take one step right now, even if it's small, even if it's messy. Start writing that idea down, make that call, post that content, sign up for that class. Do something that breaks the silence between where you are and where you want to be. People waste years because they think starting small isn't worth it. But every empire began with one brick. Every transformation began with one. You don't need to know every detail before you begin. You just need the courage to take the next step. The process will reveal what you need to know. The journey will shape who you need to become. The only question is whether you're willing to walk into uncertainty, or keep standing still waiting for clarity that will never come. The longer you wait, the heavier your excuses become. You start identifying with your hesitation. You start defending it. You tell yourself stories about why now isn't the right time, why it's smarter to wait, why you're not prepared. But none of those stories are true. They're just fear in disguise. You can't grow while protecting your comfort zone. Growth only happens when you move into unfamiliar territory, when you take that risk, when you stop waiting for everything to feel right and start acting like your life depends on it, because it does. You can spend years studying success, reading books, watching motivational videos, and still end up stuck in the same place if you don't move. Knowledge without execution is just intellectual entertainment. You don't need more information. You need implementation. The action you avoid today becomes the regret you live with tomorrow. You'll never find the perfect moment, but if you start now, you'll create it. Because the moment you take that first step, you send a signal to life that says, I'm ready. And that signal changes everything. You can't control timing, but you can control your movement. You can't predict outcomes, but you can control your effort. You can't eliminate fear, but you can decide to move with it. The perfect moment is an illusion. The right moment is the one you decide to make right now. You hang around people who drain your energy instead of those who raise your standards. The truth is, who you spend time with determines what you normalize. If you surround yourself with people who settle for average, you'll eventually convince yourself that average is enough. If your circle laughs at your ambition, mocks your discipline, or tells you to relax when you're trying to grow, you're in the wrong room. Energy is contagious. Mindsets are transferable. You can't fly when you're constantly walking with people who are afraid of heights. Every conversation either feeds your fire or steals your spark. And if you keep letting small thinkers shape your vision, you'll start shrinking your dreams to fit their comfort zones. The people you call friends might not be evil, but that doesn't mean they're good for your evolution. Some of them love the old version of you so much, that they'll fight your growth just to keep you familiar. You've got to be honest with yourself about who's adding and who's subtracting from your life. Every person you allow close to you either multiplies your energy or divides it. When you walk away from a conversation, do you feel inspired or empty, motivated or drained, empowered or confused? Feeling is feedback. That's life telling you who's pushing you toward purpose and who's pulling you toward mediocrity. Too many people stay stuck because they're emotionally loyal to people who don't match their future. They feel guilty for outgrowing relationships that no longer align with their goals. But here's the reality. You can't evolve and stay comfortable at the same time. Growth requires separation. You can love someone and still recognize they can't go where you're going. You can care for people and still choose not to keep them in your daily circle. You can't become your best self in an environment built to keep you average. The energy around you is like gravity. It either lifts you or holds you down. The conversations you entertain shape your beliefs. The beliefs you hold shape your habits, and your habits create your results. So if your circle celebrates complaining more than consistency, gossip more than growth, or comfort more than challenge, you're slowly being programmed to accept less than you're capable of. You become a reflection of the people you spend time with, even if you don't realize it. Their standards become your. If everyone around you quits when things get hard, you'll start thinking quitting is normal. If everyone around you avoids risk, you'll start fearing opportunity. If everyone around you makes excuses, you'll start believing them yourself. You need to audit your circle like your future depends on it, because it does. Who are you learning from? Who challenges your thinking? Who makes you uncomfortable in a way that stretches you? You should have people in your life who remind you that you can do more, not people who keep telling you to slow down. It's not arrogance to want more for yourself. It's self-respect. You deserve to be surrounded by people who push you to grow, who call you out when you're slacking, who remind you of your potential when you forget it. The right people won't compete with your success, they'll celebrate it. The wrong people will secretly resent it because it exposes their own stagnation. Sometimes the most dangerous people aren't your enemies, they're your comfort buddies. The ones who love keeping you in the same old patterns because it makes them feel safe. They'll tell you you've changed as if that's a bad thing. But if you're not changing, you're not growing. Every new level of your life will demand a new version of you. And that version can't survive in the old environment. You have to be willing to walk alone for a while. Solitude isn't loneliness. It's alignment. It's where you reset your energy, refocus your mind, and attract the right tribe. When you stop tolerating low standards, you make space for high-value connections. You have to protect your energy like it's your greatest investment, because it is. You can't pour into your purpose if you're constantly being drained by negativity. Every time you argue with people who don't understand your vision, you're wasting energy that could have been used to build it. You don't owe explanations to those committed to misunderstanding you. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself focus. You owe yourself a circle that speaks life into your goals. When your environment is healthy, growth feels natural. When your environment is toxic, growth feels impossible. The key is to stop confusing history with destiny. Just because someone has been in your life for years doesn't mean they belong in your next chapter. Longevity doesn't equal alignment. Some people were part of your survival story, not your success story. It takes courage to close doors, but it takes wisdom to know which ones to lock permanently. You can't walk into your future carrying the weight of people who don't want to grow. Letting go doesn't mean betrayal. It means choosing your evolution over your ego. You have to build a circle of accountability, not approval. Stop chasing validation from people who haven't done what you're trying to do. Start surrounding yourself with people who have higher standards, bigger goals, and stronger discipline. Their energy will pull you forward even when you're tired. When you see someone operating at a higher level, it forces you to rise or step back. That tension is good. That discomfort is growth. That's how iron sharpens iron. You can't sharpen yourself by rubbing against dull minds. The fastest way to change your life is to change your circle, because environment beats willpower every time. You can have the best mindset, but if you're in a negative space, that energy will infect you. You'll start second guessing your vision. You'll stop believing in your potential. You'll dim your light so others feel comfortable in their shadows. That's not humility. That's self-sabotage. You don't need to cut people off with anger, but you do need to rise with intention. The people meant for you will grow with you. The ones who aren't will naturally fall away. And that's how you'll finally create space for the energy that elevates your life. You talk about change, but your habits are still loyal to your comfort zone. Everyone says they want a better life, more success, more discipline, more freedom. But few are willing to pay the real price of transformation. The gap between what you say you want and what you actually do every day is the reason your results haven't changed. You can read every motivational book, listen to every inspiring podcast, and watch every video that tells you to level up, but until your daily actions start reflecting your words, nothing will shift. Change doesn't respond to talk. It responds to consistency. You can't speak progress into existence if your behavior keeps serving your excuses. People fall in love with the idea of transformation, but they resist the process of it. They want new results while keeping the same routine, and that's not how growth works. Habits are the foundation of your future. They're invisible systems that either build you or break you. Every habit you repeat is a vote for the person you're becoming. When you wake up late, skip your goals, scroll mindlessly, or procrastinate, you're casting votes for mediocrity. When you plan your day, follow through, learn and execute, you're casting votes for mastery. The problem is comfort hides behind logic. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, that you deserve a break, that things aren't urgent yet, but every small delay becomes a pattern. And those patterns quietly build a life you don't want. Comfort is seductive because it feels safe, but it's also dangerous because it kills your momentum. You get used to doing just enough to feel productive, but not enough to make progress. That's how people get stuck in cycles, repeating the same days for years, mistaking movement for growth. Your comfort zone will always protect your ego and limit your evolution. It convinces you that you're fine where you are, that taking risks isn't necessary, that trying something new is too uncomfortable. But everything you want is outside that zone. Growth never happens in places that feel easy. When you stay comfortable, you rob yourself of the struggle that builds strength. Discipline isn't punishment, it's training. It's the process of teaching your body, mind, and emotions to obey your vision instead of your moods. Most people never rise because they let their feelings dictate their actions. If they feel tired, they rest. If they feel unmotivated, they wait. If they feel afraid, they stop. That's why success is rare. It demands that you act independent of your feelings. Change requires friction. The moment you decide to improve, your old self will fight to survive. Dr. Daughter, your brain will try to pull you back to what's familiar because it hates uncertainty. That's why most people quit when things get uncomfortable. They think discomfort is a signal to stop, but it's actually a sign that you're moving in the right direction. You have to reprogram your mind to understand that pain is part of progress. The soreness you feel when you work out, the doubt you feel when you take risks, the exhaustion you feel when you're building something new, those are all signs of growth. The comfort zone feels good now, but costs you later. The growth zone feels hard now, but rewards you later. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you're trading your future for your feelings. You can't expect transformation if your habits still belong to your old identity. You can't say you want to be successful and still wake up late, avoid hard conversations, and waste hours on distractions. You can't say you want discipline and still choose convenience over consistency. You can't say you want freedom and still live like a prisoner of comfort. Change demands proof, not promises. The proof is in your routine, not your intentions. Every day is a test of whether you're serious or just saying you are. You either reinforce your old story or you write a new one. Small habits compound into massive results, but so do small excuses. Every decision adds up. You skip one day of effort and it doesn't seem like much, but skip it for a month and you lose momentum. You waste 1 hour scrolling and it doesn't seem like much, but do it every night and you lose entire weeks. Habits build silently and destroy silently. You won't notice the damage until it's too deep. That's why awareness is everything. You need to audit your behavior like a scientist, study your patterns, find your triggers, and change your systems. Motivation fades, but systems sustain you. You won't rise by trying harder. You'll rise by designing smarter. Change isn't about intensity for a few days. It's about consistency for a lifetime. Anyone can be motivated for a moment. Few can be disciplined for months. That's why the gap between dreamers and doers exists. Dreamers get excited when they think about success. Doers get focused when they build it. If your habits aren't serving your goals, they're serving your distractions. You can't live a high-level life with low-level routines. Every morning you either choose to move forward or stay the same, and that choice becomes your story. No, you got to stop negotiating with your potential. Every time you choose comfort, you delay your greatness. Every time you let yourself off the hook, you teach your brain that quitting is acceptable. You can't change your life with soft decisions. You have to be willing to disappoint your comfort zone over and over again. You have to commit even when it's inconvenient. You have to be relentless about replacing old habits with new ones.